Welcome to the podcast, San Qing.
So grateful to be here. Thank you, Michelle. It's an incredible honor to be on your podcast, and we hold a dear friend, a mutual friend, family to me, and it's great to have a community that observes the blatantly obvious that seems to be a distortion for most people, which is consciousness.
Yes, I know we're going to have an incredible conversation. I really was looking forward to this. Our mutual friend, Julie Ryan, is an incredible intuitive, and she's just like a master in her own world. In our world, she's just an incredible human being, and I know that she's already diagnosed me and said very specific things, so she's really on it. So I knew that when she mentioned you, there was definitely a reason we needed to meet. And then I'm reading about you, and I'm just so excited to dive in because pretty much everything that I'm reading is right up my alley. I love the whole consciousness conversation. I love the mysticism, which it's funny how we call it mysticism, but it's actually reality. But it seems to be kind of
Right.
hidden. So we're going to really unpack a lot of that. Before we do get started, I would love for you to share your origin story. I always like to get started with that so people can get to know you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can do a little bit of an abbreviated thing. I know we've only got one lifetime for this
It's always a
podcast.
long story, I think, for everybody.
But it started as a young boy, about 3 or 4. I focused on many things, but more of the fact my obsession with superheroes, and because I was left alone as a latchkey kid, you'd think back in my generation that was not abnormal to have children left by themselves. It didn't end up as a huge community disservice where the parents are looking at like 20 years in jail time. So there were moments when the TV was my best friend, and I was very aware of something
Mm,
bigger that was in the
yeah.
room. And so I was able to see through walls
Oh,
and
that's so
see through
cool.
people's bodies, and it was very familiar for me. So being obsessed with reading comic books, the Hulk, Superman, Batman, all that kind of stuff just gelled with me. So I was curious, yet I knew there was something very, very normal about these type of powers. And so I'd experienced little bits, and by the age of 8, I came across an experience where I was hit head on by a car and literally was dead for like 40
Wow.
minutes. So what happened was, drunk driver, of course, it seems to be a common thing.
Yeah.
That's like, whoa, ran right over me. My bike jammed
Oh
between
my
his
gosh.
front wheels and the road. I flew up in the air, would have seemed to be 20 feet. I saw the top of the trees. I hit the side of the road. I got up. At that point, I was only literally a car space at the front of my house. And at the time, I was living in the country, so it was pretty remote. But I was riding from the center of town out to my house, which was like a country style
Mhm.
farm. And so I got up after being hit, and the only thing I could think about was I have to see my mother before I die. And as I stepped forward, I fell backwards. The second my body hit the ground, I was Peter Pan. I was flying around, like literally observing my environment, where I witnessed my mother screaming as she was running to my lifeless body. And I was just consumed with, I can fly anywhere. I was like, I am Superman. I shot up to the top of like the sky, the universe, and
Wow.
then came back down, still observing this tragedy. And so this death experience to rebirth was really the catalyst for my curiosity, which led me deeper into my fascination with the Chinese culture. And by the age of 10, I became pretty mildly obsessed with bodybuilding and powerlifting, and I picked up a manual, a self sort of diagnosis of reality by this goofy guy by the name of Arnold Schwarzenegger, called Education of a
Uh-huh.
Bodybuilder. And so I was using that as my Bible as a young boy. So at that point, I was fasting and doing a lot of things nutritionally that are more community-wise received and accepted. So I got deep into that culture. I started competing when I was 15 years old, got down to about 4% body fat at about 187 pounds. Then I progressed as I got into my late teens, pulling ridiculous weights, 800-pound deadlift, 800-pound squat. And these were for reps. This is not my PR. So I had no boundaries because my mentor was teaching me. He was a 30-year veteran of bodybuilding. So he was teaching me about nutrition and training. So I had a really in-depth understanding of all the mechanics. So when I'm using like fats to get shredded at the age of 11, like literally walking around with a bag of like walnut oil, coconut oil, things that most people wouldn't even, in those days, had no idea about. They didn't know what fasting was. They didn't know about the ketogenic process, what that really means, how you can harness your hormones. So I was on a journey of mastering the
And where
body.
did you grow up?
And so that led in
Okay.
Australia. Yeah. So by the time I was 17, 18, there was a lot of stress on the physiology. I was tipping over 300 pounds in body weight at about 20+%, which was insane for my age. But I really had no boundaries because my mind led the reality. So if I was deflated by early 20s when someone subtly told me, it's like someone telling you that Santa Claus doesn't exist. Someone made it clear to me that, Schwarzenegger was using PEDs and other things of that nature. I didn't believe it because I had nothing to limit myself. One of the most powerful things my mother ever shared with me was, if you think it, you can create it. Mind over matter. Just a very simplistic sort of way to live, but you have the ability to create your reality. So by 17, 18, voice in my head, you need to go and find meditation. Completely like changing the direction of my life as an obsessive, physically tactile individual to something that seemed so foreign in those days. It was referred to as Hare Krishnas and vegans with hairy armpits. I mean, there was really no standard. We're coming out in the 80s from sort of a revolution of the 60s and 70s where people were obsessed with psychonautic experiences, LSD and all that kind of good stuff. So what was that really? I mean, we got shades of like Eastern culture from the late 40s, 50s, moving into the 60s with Yogananda and Hare Krishnas and all this Eastern philosophy stuff. And it was steeped in this mystic aspect. So I had always had a fascination with the Chinese culture. Most of the time, whenever I would have time, I'd go into the center of Sydney and go to the movies and hang out in Chinatown. And it was like this natural homeostasis. The culture was so ingrained into who I am. And so that led me to this moment where I discovered meditation by looking up what they call, and I tell my kids, I have 6 kids, hey, it's called a classified. What is that? Well, that was in a newspaper. Well, what's a newspaper? I mean, it's just funny how history changes. Anyway, so I discovered this meditation class, and this thing is telling me you got to try it. Now, my golden rule in life is I'll try anything once. I don't know whether that's good or bad, but
what
it works
did you
for
know
me.
about meditation?
Nothing.
You were just
Hare
drawn to it.
Krishnas, like
Yeah.
and meditation was so foreign. It was like, okay, I'm good at picking up things, crushing them, and throwing them. That was my instinct. That was my survival. That was my ability to transmute things. And I was extremely laser focused. Little did I know, I was already mastering my skills from a very young age. After my death and rebirth, it was a natural order. I would literally focus on something and it would translate and transmute into that. So I've been giving over and over again, when you get underweight, it's really not measured the power of the body until you really have to meet that moment where the tactile response of the flesh meeting the steel is really what sort of adversity is necessary in this day and age, because generations many generations leading up to this current one, they've become so soft that they
It's
don't
true.
know what it's like to live
Yeah.
in their body. And so many people are obsessed with getting outside of themselves. I don't want to come back. This is a prison planet. I mean, there's many theories on someone's version of reality, which I'm not discounting, but like there is a reason within Taoist alchemy and the path of Taoist rites that you want to meet that moment. The most natural order is that selection of the body can be a recreation, if not heaven on earth. You are a macro of a micro. So the charge that we get right now by speaking on this, we can feel the visceral effects of that. That kinesthetic charge is a consensus that we're having that, to my parapsychologist friends, is psychokinesis. There is a absolute consensus that there is something greater. There is an energetic pull that we may not visually see for many of us. If you follow the path of alchemy within Taoism, it becomes a very natural order to be able to see into things and have great depth of information in all layers, from the auric field to the mind to the body, all converging together. And your ability to read that would be in more common sensory perception, like clairvoyance, mediumship, channeling. That's all goes under the same umbrella of a Taoist priest. These are all the things that I teach people that have been for many decades. It's kind of like it's part of the course of natural selection. You recognize that you are all these things. You're iterations of everything. All is one, one is all. So the great bellows, we call it, is that you are contracting and expanding at the same time. You are all things and nothing at the same time. And your mission, if you choose to accept it, Ethan Hunt, is to find the center point. Find the center point, which we refer to within Taoism, is the primordial mother, the Wu Ji, the stillness, that from that arrives this resonance that is heaven on earth, this ability to transmute energy potential, and it's vibratory, frequential. It holds resonance. And once you hold that resonance, oh, yes, it will be yours. Oh, yes, it will. So then you garner that and you enrich yourself in what we refer to as absorbing the riches. We start to saturate the physical body. That flesh and blood that looks back at you in the mirror is 50 trillion cells of potential electrical charges that can now be emanated and converge as one. You become the maestro, the actual definition of immortality crystallized in the material. By the way, one of my books, no plug, you find that you create heaven on earth by synergizing yourself. And that longevity is one of the major keys to any Taoist path, that you recognize that by walking through that vesica, that center point we refer to as the Wu Ji, you are everything and nothing. And that you don't fit into one category. Taoism is one of those neutral things where people don't recognize. It's like, well, it's not my football team, it's everyone's football team. And we all come together recognizing that, passing through the whole, what the holy stream we refer to, the convergence. Once you recognize the symbiotic dance between yin and yang, is this beautiful little tango that takes place within this material state. Magical things take place, really take place. And so you have to move past what someone would fundamentally, within a dualistic or centric, non-centric state, recognize things as identity or subjective to a point of a fixated point, i.e., the exogenous consumption of the cannibalistic behavior of the human condition. Personality, finite mind, it's not a requirement. The true passage, rite of passage of the Taoist is natural, and it is a Tao-given right that comes with the very synergistic realization you are everything. The primordial mother opens the gateway, and guess what we find? This serendipitous, synchronistic moment wu-wei,
Oh, I love that.
effortless
It's my
action,
favorite
effortless
thing
effort.
ever.
And I mean, as you pour yourself into your own cup,
It's that flow.
you're already trancing into that
Yeah.
energy, my friend, and you're melting in like butter on a hot frying pan. It just all synergizes. We are communing, we are meeting this very moment, and we are high as AF right now, getting into this state. And it's magical when you recognize that that's the potency. So I find this meditation class, I reluctantly drive out there. I'm like 18 years old. I'm thinking, it's in a bad neighborhood. I mean, I'm an overgrown gorilla, right? People would look at me and be petrified, but I was more concerned. I'm a little teddy bear. So I drive out there, and it's basically a free workshop. I kind of figured there was some angle, like someone was trying to write off a nonprofit or something, and it's like, okay, this woman's a grandmaster. She's going to offer this meditation. She was a qigong grandmaster, whatever. I was like, look, it's free. Let me go there. So I turned up, reluctantly parked in the parking lot of the rec center. It was being offered at a community sort of center. Around me was just like chaos, mayhem, screaming, dogs barking, ambulances. It was in a bad neighborhood. Let's be very clear. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So I pull out, I get out of the parking lot. I walk up these stairs to this rec center and walk in the door, and there's a few people sort of like fussing around, getting into this weird position that I later found out was called the lotus position, kind of sitting weird. Me, I was, stone, sort of trying to melt back to butter, but it wasn't really happening at that point. I'd trained myself to be stringent and stoic and hard, so I had to crack open the soft center. So I'm attempting to sit down in this lotus position. I look like an overgrown ape trying to scratch my ass. This woman is walking around and standing. She would come up to here on me, and I'm just sort of hunching over. And she was so receptive and opening. She didn't really go, oh, you need to do this, do that. She was just observing, letting people get into position, and people are like wanting to run their heart chakras, and they're sitting in there and they're posturing themselves, attempting to straighten their channel, their flow. And I was just trying to survive. I was hearing all this crap outside. I was really thinking, I need to get up and leave. This is not for me. Whatever this meditation thing is, I want action, man. I want crushing. I want physical engagement. And so I was more concerned with the screaming, the dogs barking, whatever. And so she gets comfortable. She looks around. She walks up to me. She just kind of smiles and nods her head and keeps walking around the room. Gets in the center of the room, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get up and go. I don't want to interrupt this anymore. And all of a sudden she goes, I want you to listen to my voice. And I'm like, yeah. Like in the same second, then she said, and then everything will fall away. And I kid you not, for 20 minutes, I stopped sound. Well, I observed stopping sound. Nothing. Gone. I'm like, my eyes are like saucers, and there was no sound. I'm looking around the room. She's looking at me going, and I'm like, it's like, there's no freaking sound. I can't hear anything coming out of her mouth because at my moment of inquiry, it was a meditation. So I imagine someone was speaking something. Nothing. No sound in the background, no sound outside. Gone. And my eyes were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And for 20 minutes, I was like, this is it. This is the superpower that I was looking for. I have found it. I have met it. Holy crap, I need this now. And so this went on for 20 minutes. I was blown away. And she was very humble and soft. Oh, you did very well. Thank you. I left there going, what next? I mean, I didn't pursue her. It was just a natural thing. So I went back to the classifieds, and I was like, okay, channeling. Someone said channeling. I'm like, what am I going to channeling? What is that? Find an ad in the newspaper. This guy's offering a channeling class. So I turn up to that the next day. I'm addicted. I'm like, whatever this is, I want more of it. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, stopping sound. Like I was just so overwhelmed with excitement. I turn up to this channeling class, and this guy looks at me and goes, "No." I'm like, "Whoa, no." And I'm like, "What happened?" No, no. Can you please let me know why you're saying no? I'm just here for I don't care. You are not someone that needs to be in this class. And I'm like, hey, look, you're offering it. Take my money. I think it was $5 or $10 at the time. It's like, back in those days, that's a lot of money back in the 80s. I'm like, no. I'm like, please, just let me, I want to interrupt. It's like, take a look around. You look out of place. And I did look out of place. Everyone else looked like a hippie just hanging out with their organic clothes on. And they were very, very much relaxed vegan types. He's like, this is not going to help you. Whatever you're looking for, you're not going to find it. You'll never be able to do this. And I'm like, can I please just be here? Like this force was like, you must be here. So he let me sit in the class. Not 5-10 minutes later, the whole room was standing around me with their sticks with marshmallows, cooking it from the emanation of the vibration frequency that was coming out of my body, because I hit Latsu, entered my body at a velocity that was like a rocket shooting off to the moon. And I was sweating profusely and emanating this radiance that I'd never, I was like, I'm observing my body literally vibrating and moving in a pattern that I've never expressed before. And my mouth was unable to open, and something was talking through me. Where as I looked through my eyes, there was a superficial energy that was laying on top of me that was speaking to the audience. I had no control over. My mouth was shut. So that was Latsu talking. And this guy was like, really? And everyone was like, holy crap, how is this happening? I had no expectation. That was, I fundamentally, I remind people, I'm like, accept everything at face value like a child, and you'll be shocked if you're childlike in your nature. What can come about of your own exploration of self, that things can literally happen instantaneously. You don't have to spend lifetimes committing to anything if you allow yourself to be a recipient, to really receive the new version of self, the new iteration of self. So I was channeling Latsu, and everyone was freaking out. All these words were coming out. I was speaking on it. Then it got really freaky, because then he left my body, and now I see him as clear as I see you now everywhere. Like now I'm looking at this spirit that is like as dense and as 4K, 8K as you are, and hearing his voice. I'm like, okay, I'm officially crazy. This is awesome. I can't wait. This
So he
doesn't get any
became
better
your
than
guide.
that. I'm like, well, he's a teacher. Yeah, still to this day, 30 years later, he's still my teacher. And channeling is an art form that can be taken on by anyone, because we all do it. You don't realize you're being commandeered by your attention, intention, understanding the convergence of conscious and unconscious. We're doing it all the time. As one of my teachers would
It's
say,
true.
Jade Emperor.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Right. Well, he always reminds us, all thoughts of your mind are not yours. Well, then whose are they?
I was just
Well, that's an
literally
interesting
listening to that in an audiobook today. It was talking about how it's like the muse, creations. It's coming from somewhere. We're really channeling it. It's not just randomly coming from us.
Yeah. So, started talking to this guy that was literally an apparition that was as dense as you are. And I think I've lost my mind, because as a young boy, I warded off a pretty big virus for most of my friends who were sort of aimless. And they couldn't understand why my obsession with bodybuilding and powerlifting became more dominant than anything else. So I'd hang out with my childhood friends that, in my teens, and they'd all be smoking dope, taking drugs, all this kind of stuff. And I'd be in the corner of the room reading a muscle and fitness magazine going, and at a certain point, I think I was 16, though, like, you know what, you got to go. I'm like, what? You're a buzzkill. Like, either take the drugs or not. But I'm like, we've been friends for so long. It's like, you just get out of here, man. And like, I was so adamant. There was a force at that point throughout my childhood that said, do not touch that stuff. Nothing, nada, don't go near it. And I was like, okay, I'm cool with that. It's not swaying me one way or another. I couldn't care less about these things. But later in my teenage years, at the point where I got to channeling Latsu, out of my 20 childhood friends, pretty much most of them had committed suicide.
Wow.
Because it's such a daunting effect. Now, I would say that's even worse now because they're being completely bombarded with this false distortion through digital media that makes it very difficult for a young mind to get a handle on who they are.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
Too much distortion, too much information.
Yeah, it's true.
So what happened was, by the time I was seeing Latsu, I thought I'd lost my mind like everyone else, because they just started to just melt away. Their own sense of self, their own persona just disintegrated. And I witnessed that throughout my whole teenage life. And so I was like, I wanted to avoid this. So now all of a sudden I've gone and started this channeling thing. Now I'm seeing gray men talking to me, hearing them, seeing them. I've lost my mind. And I was so deep into it, from no sound to this. It was like a gut punch. So the third day turns around. This guy's offering channeling, clairvoyance training. I'm like, oh, yeah, well. And he's like, dude, I'm not so. And a 60-year veteran, completely pissed off that some newbie barbarian walks into his very refined channeling class and literally is channeling this high level of wisdom and source information. And I really didn't know what I was doing. Of course I didn't. But I knew that I had arrived home with this energy and this relationship with Latsu. And so now I've got this in the background. I see this guy with my eyes open. I'm going batshit crazy. At this point, I'm all in. What else could possibly happen after 2 days of mind-bending stuff? Sure. So I went through this channeling workshop. Clairvoyance. And it was a day training. Next minute he goes, okay, I've given you the instruction. Now, a lot of things that I attribute to me being able to remember who I am is that there's nothing more to it. You just accept it at face value, and it just recognizes and realizes itself. So I was like, okay, here's the run-of-the-mill. Bodybuilding, powerlifting. You do 5 exercises, 3 compound, 1 isolate, low reps, high reps. How are you going to manipulate the muscle fiber to get the response? I mean, that's just my mindset. I've been training for so many years. This is how I do it. You eat that, you don't eat that. Here's the endocrine system manipulated. You sleep, you don't sleep. All the things that you need to stimulate a response within the body. So I took this the same way. It's like, okay, so now I'm seeing this gray guy. I'm listening to his voice. I'm hearing him. I must be going crazy. Now this guy teaches me, this is clairvoyant reading 101. Read the auras. Here's how you do it. 1 through 10. And so I did the class, and then here's the manual. Okay, now read me, Mr. Channeler. Like, he was getting really, really, really bitchy, really like had a disdain for me now, because he was like, this is ridiculous. I've done this for 60 years. What happened to the spiritual enlightenment? And this barbarian clown walks in and he's channeling, Latsu. And so he's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Show me how you could channel. I mean, read my aura. And I'm like, okay. And I, there's no standard. I'm just giving this 1 through 10 sort of thing. I'm like, okay, there's an energy telling me if you don't continue to give them your students' life force, they will kill you. And he was just like, what? Up, up, up. We're in like a small little environment, like someone's house. So they had like this group of 20 people. Get up, go in the other room. Get up, get up, get up, go. And I'm being pushed in. I'm like, what did I do? He sits me down. He goes, what did you just say to me? And I was like, I don't know. Like, you asked me to read your energy. This energy came in, and it's saying that if you don't continue giving them the energy of your students, it's going to take your life. And then next minute, he's giving me this confession. Okay, look, I need you to understand something. I'm in a transition. I'm reprioritizing how, and I'm not hearing anything. I just want, my goal is, did I hit the goal, coach, or did I not hit the goal? Because that's all I'm looking for. Was it close? Did I go through the goalpost? I mean, what's going on? So he's confessing to me that this is his behavior. This is what he's doing. He's like, he's literally siphoning energy from his students. And I'm like, it wasn't comprehending in my mind, because what do I know? I'm like 3 days into this whole experience. What the hell do I have a clue about? Ciphering energy from people, or knowing what energy is, or auras. I mean, this is all foreign. So next minute, he starts confessing, and it finally hits me. And I go, did I get it right? And he's like, look, no. Did I get it right? Is this information correct? Look, no. Just tell me, because I'm goal-oriented. It's like, tell me. He's like, yes, but I want to explain myself. And I was just like, holy shit. This is mind-blowing to me. This is like out of my TV shows. This is the comic books. This is what Superman does. It was just overwhelming, one thing after another. And so he does a confession thing. Latest story about him, if we get to it. 4th day goes in. I get a crash course in what they call distant healing. Everyone knows what this is. It's the common denominator. You apply either physical acupuncture, or you could do virtual acupuncture. You can do all types of crazy things to access people's channels. I finished this thing. I got home, and I'm getting a call, because in those days we have rotary phones, It's like, we're going to have cell phones, dude. We're waiting. So a friend of mine calls, and she goes, look, I can't make it. I was going to come and see you today. My ankle's busted. I rolled it. It's the size of a watermelon. I'm probably going to be off for days. It's going to take me weeks to rehab this thing. It's over. And I'm like, oh, that's too bad. I want to catch up with you. And she was like, look, I'll catch up with you. And she went to hang up on me, and was like, hold on. She's like, what do you mean, hold on? Hold on. I learned this thing today. And she's like, what? It's called distant healing. And she's like, oh, what is that? I'm like, can you just give me 5 seconds? Can I try this thing on you? Like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it works, you're going to feel better. She's like, look, can you just hurry up, whatever it is? I said, it'll take 2 minutes. So I had, again, another script. It had the form. It had an incantation, which evoked certain things. Then you would speak through it. And then in the end, you would cast it with a specific catalyst, what they refer to as the vehicle of the Divine Mother. So this would evoke the magic and solidify it. So I went through the instruction, and she's like, can you hurry up, please, please? I'm like, 2 seconds. I'm just about, now I'm going to say this thing. I'm going to say a couple of words. Just don't make any sense of it. And then let's see what happens. And she's like, please hurry up. I just want to get off the phone. So I go through the thing. Next one, I'm like, heal, 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 heal. It was 5 words. That's it. Then I hear, what the fuck? And she starts screaming through the phone. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, what? And she goes, I don't know what kind of sorcery you're into, but my ankle just shrunk and it's back to normal. And I'm standing on it right now. What is going on? And I'm like, I'm thinking, I'm seeing an old dude talking to me. I'm pretty much insane at this point. It's like, what else can happen? I'm reading auras. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm like, sure it did. At this point, I want to dispute things because I know I'm going crazy, but I want to dispute it. She's like, you need to come over here. This is crazy. And I'm like, back in those days, Polaroid's a big thing. Take the snapshot, Oh, yeah, check it out. Look what we've taken a photo of, blah, blah, blah. She had a habit of taking photos before and after of anything, right? Whatever it is. She was bored out of her mind, so she's taking photos of her ankle. I get over to her place. She's living with her parents. She runs up to me, gives me a big hug. And then it's like, okay, you're standing. That's great. My ankle, swollen, size of a cantaloupe. I'm like, I don't see that. Because I wanted to push back on all this craziness. So like, I need to stop. Like, this is getting insane. She shows me the Polaroid and I freak out. And she goes, I'm standing on it. And I'm like, holy shit. And the mother's sitting there because it's in her family home. And her mother had a habit of, her normal remedy is 2 packs of cigarettes and a bottle of vodka is the normal remedy for a day in her life off. So she's sitting there puffing away. Back in those days, secondhand smoke was good for you. It's like, and I'm like doing this and she's talking to me and the mother's sitting there and she goes, I knew you were a healer. And I was like, what are you talking about? I knew you were a healer. What does that even mean? And so I'm having this 3-way spiritual Dr. Phil with these people. They're like, yeah, look, you can do it. You have the superpower. I'm like, I don't know what you think I have. I just followed instruction. If this is accurate, you have definitely received a healing. And so this gets to a phenomenal level where the mother goes, I want you to come back tomorrow. I've got a problem with my foot. So in essence, she doesn't believe in doctors. She has a stupid amount of money. She has a bunch of yes people around her. She had a distended stomach. Like, honestly, she's near death, like, in my opinion. And like, she couldn't say anything, just smokes away, drinks vodka, whatever. So I turn up to her house. I got Latsu talking to me in the periphery. I'm seeing him. It's like, okay, well, what else could happen? I mean, what am I going to do here? You got a problem with your foot. So I literally turn up going, well, what am I going to do? Sure, let's play along with this. I pull her sock off. It was gangrenous. Wow. It was like black. And I'm like, whoa. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm just like, I don't know what I am, crazy? All this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking in my head, now Latsu's like, no. And I'm like, what do you mean, no? You're going to watch a healing. I'm like, what do you mean watch a healing? And I sat there and for 40 minutes watched her foot go from black to pink in color.
That's crazy. Wow.
Beyond crazy.
But they do that. I've seen videos of that in China. With the Qigong.
Oh, yeah. It's 100%
and they've
real.
done it
I've been
with
experiencing.
ultrasounds. You can actually, they recorded it where tumors would shrink in front of their eyes.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen everything from
they
that
do that commonly.
to tumors disappear. When I got comfortable with it, I used to just take sebaceous cysts, raise them to the top of the skin and burst them like, volcanoes. Wow. That was my favorite. That's my favorite. That was my obsession. So this turns into, I need to find more. So then it became a passion of mine. I got involved with a couple of teachers. I ended up going to China, got ordained in 2 lineages of Taoism.
Wow.
Cut a long story short because we could go on for hours. I'm very good at storytelling. And so here I am today, 36 years later, teaching people internal alchemy because I had to make sense of this. Like, of course, if you go deeper in understanding the layers of self, I'm just reliving a life that I've had 1,000 times over. And it's for me to experience this unimaginable, unlimited state that returns everyone back to their greatest level of homeostasis, this holiness, the holy stream. And so Taoism, within that sense of internal alchemy, we refer to the Nidan and Weidan coupling, you evoke Nigong. And Nigong is the internal power that derives from that alchemical process. And so the more you understand how these things work, you're off to the races, and pretty much there's nothing that cannot be achieved. It's all about transmuting distortion, which is a lower frequential state of energy potential, the material. And we refer to this within Taoist metaphysics as the highest point being the primordial mother. She is the void. She animates consciousness. Consciousness animates the Shen, the spirit. The spirit animates energy. Energy animates the material world, the body, the lower distortion, different variables. What most people tend to do is they play between the material world and the energy, and they never really meet themselves. Where attention, intention generates what we call Shengong, which is spirit power. That arrives, and then all of a sudden you are now able to create perfection, heaven on earth. These things arrive when you converge past, present, and future. It's not subject to time and space. It's all just one stream. Does that all make sense?
100% for me. Hopefully for the listeners, but I mean, listen, we have Dr. Joe Dispenza doing a lot of this and creating research, really bridging the science and the spirituality, and this. It really comes down to that quantum, that void. That's the quantum. It's really coming to that place, and I think that I think as a collective have been so conditioned to identify with the material world. So we're in this constant reaction and stuck into that same state because we're only reacting and responding to the material, nothing else. And so this, you were saying the energy and the material. So I see this a lot in my own practice because I work with fertility and and so many things landed when you were talking about even channeling, because it's a form of channeling. And so where are those blocks? And I think those blocks can be ignored or not seen or missed by many people because their center of focus, that kind of like we were talking about when you were first starting to train, you get so hyper focused on that material, on that goal, that you miss everything behind the scenes that's impacting what you're looking at. And so I always say there's always that, it really begins in that spiritual aspect, that refined aspect of ourselves that we rarely pay attention to. And so getting that into that state of quietness, like you've experienced when you were meditating, getting into that state or allowing ourselves the opportunity to experience that state of quietness. And you look at a lot of the ancient teachings, and they all really come down to, and they always point us back to that void, that non-attachment. They say, don't get too attached. The more you get attached, you're consistently keeping yourself in that wheel. And I think about what you were talking about before, and when you're talking about that void, that kind of state, I see it as like the eye of the storm. You can get yourself sucked into that circular wheel, or you can kind of go back into that void. And from a material aspect, the void feels like we're going to lose everything. But that's really where we find our power. So it's kind of like you almost can't look at it from a material perspective if you really want to gain that power. Because the material aspect, which is like kind of where the ego, that ego mind will always kind of teach you or convince you that you're losing by doing that. But we can't lose because that's where we come from. We come from this glorious state that really has no words to describe it. So like that glorious state, it just is. It's kind of beneath everything else. And the only way we can really connect with it is really to detach and kind of get into that inward space of stillness. That's kind of how I perceive it.
No, I agree with you. I mean, it's understanding the effects of the exogenous trials of the finite mind, which has turned you into, your Sherlock to your Watson. the human condition through the labyrinth of the finite mind coming out the other end as a human being. That requires a level of tenacity, security, and then insecure states where you are what we refer to as the selfishness to the selflessness requires the sacrifice. And that sacrifice is a version of self that cannot be broken. So the version of self that cannot be broken is the very self that needs to go back into the wood chipper. So when you're looking at it from the perspective of just even, I just transcribed the Tao Te Ching with Lao Tzu a year and a half ago. And so there's an actual 2024 version of the Tao Te Ching that I channeled immediately from Lao Tzu. It's about 300 pages, and it's like no other Tao Te Ching that you have ever read. And so I normally channel 3 to 5 600-page books in about a day.
Wow.
In some cases. And so, I have about 8 books right now that I'm just about to publish that are all in collaboration with Lao Tzu.
I love that.
So I don't claim to know anything. I'm just, I'm as dumb as rocks. And the information seems to flow inherently from the fact that I know nothing, and then you know everything. Yeah. But when you let that be the true guiding force as you are the barometer. Yeah. And so when you think you don't know, if you know, you feel. It's more than a feeling.
I'll be honest, I feel like, it's interesting. I spoke to an intuitive years ago I think she was the one that won America's Psychic Challenge. She had passed away, Michelle White Dove. And she had mentioned that I have an Asian master. And I feel like it could be Lao Tzu, because I feel like I just get this stuff. I naturally I just get it. It just makes sense to my mind. And it just makes sense. And I think part of it is really, as you're talking, I'm really picturing in my mind somebody holding on to something in the material world, which is kind of the illusionary world, holding on for dear life, thinking that that's going to protect them. But the truth is, it's just not. It's an illusion. So we're kind of like holding on to an illusion. I think that's where people get stuck. And that's how our bodies get stuck. And we talk about channeling. I work with fertility, and that's a channeling of the body, channeling to connect. Sometimes I have my patients and my clients channel and connect with the spirit babies, and that I see it all the time. I see the connection that they have. I see the signs that they get, and the signs that they get relay into what really happens, to the point where 2 of my stories were connected to birth dates of their babies, the future babies. Mm-hmm. And it was, I witness it because I'm there with them through the process before they even get pregnant. So I can attest to it. I'm a witness, and I see those things happening. But the moment they start to become a channel, or they get into this state of channeling, they not only open themselves up to the information, but in so doing, because, it's spirit, energy, body, they're also impacting their bodies, and close, like near to that. Sometimes it could be about 9 months for it to really manifest into a pregnancy. But I see it, and I really love hearing you talk, because I think that, of course, I had my Chinese medicine perspective, and I work a lot on nutrition, but I've always been really drawn to the spiritual aspect of it. And I feel like, as I'm talking to you, it's inspiring me to really step into that as a practitioner, and to really kind of like lean on that aspect as well, because I feel like that if you really master that, and I don't think we can ever fully master it, but if we really connect to that, I think that's really the source. So everything else is secondary.
You're 100%. I have a lot of students, most of them are doctors of just medicine or doctors of Chinese medicine. I mean, the problem is it's not cohesive until you meet the energy, you meet yourself. So all this other stuff is like a little bit of an enhancement of who you really are. When you return to the secret source, the holy stream, all that other stuff becomes realized and recognized as a remedy. But you have to be able to hold the charge. The biggest problem is the inadequacy and the part that people like to spiritual bypass their very essence. So they want to go straight to, many of my students are Brahman, 20-year transmitters of high consciousness, cosmic consciousness, all this kind of stuff. And I think it's fantastic, but then the hubcaps come off the wheels. The body cannot hold the charge that you are emanating as the tuning fork. The biofield, the actual physicality the lens is not whole. So it's undercooked. Right. It's never overcooked. So most people pull in an inversion. So for the purposes of Taoism, yin is the inversion, the inverted effects, right? Yang is the exponential expansion of. So when you meet those two energies, that's when you arrive. Being able to not dominate, but regulate and then converge them as one. So most people that become intuitive or more in their intuitive self and less in their intellectual self become corrupted because they pull that and they invert that energy. So yin is the absorption of all colors, yang is the emission of all colors. That's it from a Taoist perspective. Now, when we get layers of things like, for me as a priest, I teach people everything from, understanding about all levels of Taoist magic and being able to remedy it, whether it's an exorcism or dispelling black magic, whatever. It's all part and parcel this whole path, and everything returns back to a consensus of one stream. And so people get overwhelmed, and most psychics and mediums become exhausted. They sell their soul. They expend their life force. We refer to it as Jing, their constitution, the power that they have, that they were born into this, their embryonic self that takes that first breath that then engages the primordial mother's creation of Yang, which is the flesh. Now we get down with it. And for most people, I've never seen anyone at 100% when they come into a material state of body. Yet, even at 80%, the whole point of Taoist alchemy is to teach you to bring your physical body to 100%, from 100% to 1,000%, from 1,000% to 9,000%. Then we are embodying and emanating what we refer to as immortality crystallized in the material. Heaven on earth has arrived. You are now the evidence of longevity, and this life force is being charged and maintained as a holy stream. This is where magic takes place. This is where serendipitous, synchronistic moments are unrivaled. They are absolute. The absolute is where you're talking about arriving. It's not a subjective absolute where you need to run in the other direction. My football team's the greatest. No, it's an absolute universal sense of self that does not require your participation. What? No. The finite mind, your need to lead the charge is unnecessary. Take a back seat. Anyone that wants to dismantle their personality, they need to be forewarned it's a mistake. Recognize that I like chocolate bonbons. I drive my side-by-side of the desert 100 miles an hour, and unfortunately I'm deficient enough to watch Netflix and pay for it. But that is not who I am. So that is the fruit and the chocolate syrup on top of your sundae to experience this humanistic expression I have never met a miracle, a supernatural, paranormal, supernormal experience with any form of identity. The convergence of past, present, and future arrive with nothing. And so my normal process is I have people, a lot of people come to me, grandma's in a coma, and you're that guy. They tell me you can help me. Boom. No, grandma's not going to die. She's going to come out of the coma. Next day, she comes out of the coma. The doctors are like, what happened? She was in critical condition and ready to die. No. I had a communication with her. She said she just needed more love and support from her family. She had no reason to continue this path. And with this union of family and this message, she came right back out to play. Now, this is very common for me. I've been doing this for 30 years. And so miracles are very normal. Seeing weird things like gashes sealed before my eyes, tumors disappear, healings immediately, and some of the most profound healings that I've witnessed, everything from someone at the verge of having a C-section, right? And in 5 seconds, the baby about face just with a communication, and boom, that it's an arrival that happens not too fast, because minutes is like you're going to get razor burn from that, but very short order, where someone's been basically holding on in labor due to their own fear, and then their lack of communication with the baby is where you tend to find, resistance. And then all of a sudden,
Right.
boom, you have an arrival. Takes little to no time. Or communicating and transitioning someone who has really come to the end of the road. And so from that, you see miracles as the whole energy system shuts down, and then they arrive as a greater sense of self, filling out the space, filling out the room, filling their loved ones with this joy and happiness and love that was part of who they really were as a humanistic expression. And so all that is just part of a normal day in the office as a Taoist priest. Yay.
So
It's good to be me.
I mean, it's really amazing stuff. And I will say, because I've been such a student of Dr. Joe Dispenza's for many years, I've gone to so many of his retreats. I'm fascinated by how he bridges it into actual, as much tangible as possible. But you can only do so much when you're talking about the quantum and something that is not tangible by nature. And so I find that everything you're talking about really is very similar to the experiences that they had there, which is you kind of jump timelines, and you go into a completely different reality, and people come in with tumors and they come out without, or they come in with wheelchairs and they come out walking. And I've seen them right in front of me in the audience. It's really remarkable. So, and his, theory, because he says, I can only kind of measure what we have, but I can't say why per se. I could just tell you my theory. And the way he sees it is, you're going into this quantum, and part of what he says, you go into nothing. You go into nothing. Like, you completely take away the identification. As you're talking about that, I think about the listeners of this podcast who frequently go to doctors and are given so many labels and identifications, and you're infertile, or this can't happen for you, or you have no eggs, or all these ideas that really get into their minds and seep into their subconscious mind. And but I've had so many stories that completely defy that, and defy the predictions that they've been given. And it's pretty wild. But when you say identification, I think, wow, like that's probably one of the biggest things, is so many people end up identifying with really their diagnosis, which they don't really know better. They just go to the doctor for that information. And then when I think a lot of them end up feeling intuitively, maybe this isn't really my path. Like, that's typically what I'll see, is people feeling that. and then finding me or finding you or finding people like us. I think because they feel something within them say, maybe there's something more to this whole journey. Maybe there's something bigger. Maybe there's some kind of intelligence. Maybe there's some way that I can figure this out. Like, and I think that that is a very real thing, but because it is so subtle, we can often mistake it for just a thought and something random.
Yeah. I mean, evidence is the true remedy. Elementary, my dear Watson. Deduction and recognizing that, that divine spark is that real seed that creates a level of awareness that turns into inquiry. And inquiry then blossoms into curiosity. Curiosity feeds the very essence of self that becomes a belief system. And so that belief system is only met with evidence. And you can go either way on that.
Yeah.
You can feed the system something that is repeatable, that is met with your subjective reality, that may not serve you or the community or others, but you are still getting evidence of that. I'm a miserable person and it shows. So it's like, I am a positive person and it shows. The simplicity of that
I
is
am a magical person and it
simple.
shows. Yeah, it's like the superhero, that's like the, yeah.
And you don't recognize how simple it is that you are the master, keeper, creator of your reality. And you only want to take ownership when you've been given the hallmark version of self. Where, okay, this is considered good. This is, enchanted. This is charming. This is blessed. This is blissful. This is joy. This is harmony. This is happiness. This is love. Love being the most subjective thing out there. And yet people tend to think, oh, well, it's only universal once you meet that moment. Until then, it could be razor blades and bunny rabbits and unicorns and, cloud farts. Who knows? It just varies until you recognize that the power of Taoist alchemy is this. We refine it down to the universe doesn't have a moral compass. The true essence of the cosmos is the convergence of the sun, the earth, the moon from an alchemical perspective. And you evoke the primordial mother within. You are heaven on earth. That cosmos is the very expression of the physicality. And you show yourself, your harmonious version will show you that as the barometer, the tuning fork, the imperium, the dominion, the maestro to the very soundtrack of self. And that derives from meeting that moment. And that moment comes in all different types of forms, but you will find it because you are searching. As a seeker, that will become your reality as you continue the path, one foot after another. I always find, Dispenza very thought-evoking and sometimes interesting, and then a little bit, dismissing. When you say demystifying the mystical, it almost just gives you a free ticket. It's like, hey, look, you're a meth head, but not today. You have to recognize that you want to make this a formula, which I agree with, is a method to the madness. But understand that everyone's origin story, even though they may swear by the atheism or whatever it is that they believe, the nihilism, the delusionism, whatever you are at, there is still an origin story that goes deeper. And if you keep looking, you will find it. And it generally doesn't come from scientism. Scientism is a byproduct of something greater. So, scientism. It's
true. I agree with you. It can limit us.
And so there's so much magic that comes out of what he puts together. And then on the other side of the coin, if you're listening to the linguistics, there's a double negative there. When he talks about the work, there's no such thing in Taoism. Work doesn't exist. It's an effortless action that derives true mastery. And
But
that
not
mastery is
everybody's ready to hear
recognizing.
that. I think that that's where he's a
Oh,
good
of course
bridge,
not.
because he's able to bridge people that are still very much identified with the material world and bridge them in an easy way. And then maybe after that, they can go into another level of, the depth.
Well, I think the biggest rub for me is when you when you when you harpoon the word work. And for me, I'm not a fan of it. I teach people this stuff on, body language and understanding deeper layers of
Yeah.
self, all the way through to, neuro linguistic programming. Or if you want me to erase your name and have you see me as Justin Bieber, we can do that. That's a lot of fun. But that's not. This is an iteration that you are slipping into a state, and so everything is a state. Everything is a variable. You have conditioned yourself very well. You sit into a trance very well, and you've been doing that through most of this conversation. You go right into the energy. And I mean, if the audience looks close enough, you are replicating the infinity pattern from the energy that's moving through your body as we're speaking to you, and you don't even recognize that it's cyclical, and it's cycling, and the pacing and leading is showing itself through the body. So, divination, more commonly for all my hypnagogic grand masters of something called trance or hypnosis. It's a dirty word. I don't really care to use it. It doesn't really mean much. But I mean, this is a deeper state of, ideomotor response. This is where you are getting information from the unconscious through the body. And you can get that through tarot cards, dowsing forks, Ouija boards, you name it. You will get a message that will show you something greater. A pendulum, the
Muscle
simplicity
testing.
of a
Yeah.
pendulum, muscle testing, it will all bring you back to that point. And so ideomotor returns to ideograms, which seem to be a common thing that a lot of my remote viewer friends like to use to teach people this type of state. Body dowsing is an ancient Taoist art form, and I teach people how to use that at a much higher level. Where my favorite trick is taking someone to I'm out here in Las Vegas, so take them to some crappy hotel with 5,000 rooms like the MGM Grand. Give them a quarter, go and put it somewhere in the hotel, and then I'll come back and go, yeah, good luck finding that one. Little do they know they're a walking emanated state of all information that I see through their body. And I just use them as a tuning fork and take me right back to the coin. And they freak out and go, how is that possible? I'm not touching them because that's a little archaic, sort of like troglodyte-ish, but it's still muscle testing. You could put your hand on their wrist and use that as a more stiffer version, a higher level of mastery. I don't need that, and it's just a matter of conditioning. Everyone can be conditioned because I teach my students all this, but furthermore, it's a learnt experience. That's part of the alchemy. It's another level of sensory perception. It's not just limited to me. I'll just say it really clear. This shit has been around for thousands of years. It's been handed down from generation. Millions of people have used it before us. So why do I need to reinvent the wheel? I just use the mechanisms within the alchemy that are so powerful, and they literally turn you into a superstar when it comes to, consciousness. You are on another level.
It's so wild. I feel like I need to have you back for not just two more episodes, because I feel like we're just scratching the surface, and there's just so many things that we can talk about. Future, it might be good to, come back and then have more conversations, because we're just really scratching the surface, and there's just so much to talk about. And I love talking about this kind of subject. It's just, it's so vast. And I've always, I think, even as somebody young, I've always like resisted, I guess, maybe, it's my intelligence somewhere in play. Anything that defined me too much. And I think that was just, and I get very, I notice that when my patients come and tell me that like their doctors define them as certain ways, find myself, it's a trigger for me. I'm like, no. So, because I know that there's more. I just feel like there's something much more vast. And the second we start to really confine ourselves, that's when we limit our expression. And yeah, we can go on and on. There's so many things that I want to talk about, but I would like to maybe have you back. But for
Yeah,
people
yeah,
listening
absolutely. I'd love
and
to.
who are really curious about everything that you've shared, are interested in learning more about this subject matter, and are also interested in working with you somehow, how can people find you? What are your offerings?
Sure, sure. So I have a website called immortaldaoistrites.com. And through that, I offer a number of different alchemical remedies for things. You can find what you're looking for, all different types of stuff. And if you're inclined to want to pursue more as a student, I have an application form. People can reach out, and there's so much greater enriched experiences that once you find yourself, there are no limits. And so you need to embody what we speak of, and that requires a method.
Mm-hmm.
And the sooner you get that out of the way and you start just resonating on your true elixir, immortal elixir resonance, magical things take place. And that's just through conditioning. I hate to break it to people. It's like all this powerful sensory perception will be yours. It's not limited to one person who has one gift. You just have to go through the conditioning process. And that's where people freak out, because once they start to turn the energetic architecture on, all bets are off. I attribute it, it's quite simple. Imagine you're driving down the street in your car. I tell you to pull over to the side of the road. You get out of your car, but your car is still idling on the side of the road. Once you activate the Nigong within yourself, the merging of Wei Dan and Ni Dan, you have a process that doesn't require your participation. So that system is always on, it's always operating, it's always emanating. And that's where your resonance precedes you. When you walk into a room, like the old expression, your reputation precedes you, your resonance precedes you. People just instantly get poured into that stream that you are emanating as your baseline default self as you acquire it. So you can go to Immortal Daoist Rights. Furthermore, you can find me on the way126.com. I have a podcast, Way126 podcast on YouTube. If you're looking to up your alchemical process and you're not so interested in a specific Taoist path, I developed an app through Latsu that is basically a zero to a hero, where you master your emotions in a short order. There's 2 years worth of training, but most people that are someone that are sick and tired of being entrapped in their mind prison, they will have a mastery of their own emotions within nine weeks, where you will literally move your emotions like an icon on a computer screen. That's where people want to be. They want to meet that moment and find that power. And it's all for you to discover. That's the exciting part. As I would always tell people, we have just begun.
Life is exciting when you really free yourself, outside of the confines, and then see things as really working for us. Because I think everything kind of reflects to us what we need to open up. But it's wonderful to have teachers like you and having really that method, because I think that that's where people don't really know where to begin. So thank you so much, San Qing. I really am excited to have
Thank
you back, because
you,
of course I have so many things to talk about, but we can only limit it to, the time that we have. But thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for inviting me. I was very, very grateful to be here.